Good morning, everyone. My name's Aaron Smith. I am a member of the Dyslexia Box team here, and I'm also the owner and founder of the Dyslexia Show. And I'm here to present our Supporting Dyslexia Workplace Day. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone can hear me. There is a little hands up button on the control panel for the delegates. If you want to just find it, just give someone press it for me. A couple of people press it just so I know that there is. People can hear me. That's great. I can see some hands going up. That's most appreciated. Thank you very much for that. That's just to know. So welcome to today's session. What an amazing session we've got for you. We've got 7 sessions over today, and we start with a brilliant speaker with Michael Vanesh from Microsoft. If you've never heard of Dyslexia Box is the Pan Disability company. We offer support and services for people in the workplace. Everything from assistive technology to assessments to training to coaching, offering awareness in that. And we're delighted to have a lot of our providers, supporters on this day today. And we're really happy that the BDA are supporting the event, and also then we have Michael from Microsoft, just to give us an overview of how a large company understands disability and inclusion. So these are our people. As I said, we've got Michael, we've got Gillian Ashwood from the British Dyslexia Association, we've got Dan from Philips, we've got Richard and Ed from Caption Talk, we've got their Darren, that's the word, from Auditional. We've got Donna Stevens from the BDA, and of course we finished with Mary from Claro. So a really good day today. Lots of talks going on, so lots of information over the day that's going to be really useful for you. Don't forget, if you want to know more information about Dyslexia Box, please email them hello@dyslexiabox.co.uk, and there's their web address. Really looking forward to this session. So I'm going to unmute Michael, and we're going to get started really quickly. How are you, Michael? Are you there? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you, Aaron. I just had a lovely picture together sent to me. So this is slightly greatly but positively disruptive in the sense that it's International Men's Day, and one of my colleagues, he sent me this picture saying thanks for being a great role model. So the day just
you are definitely a great role model, Michael. It's great. Do you want to click on the button that says share my screen in the middle of your screen for me, please? That's brilliant. So I can now see your screen. I'm going to hand over to Michael for today's session, and then we will, if we get time, we will have a small Q&A. But all the sessions are quite short, so you get lots of information over the day. I'm going to be quiet now, Michael. I'm going to hand over to you. Over to Michael.
Fabulous. Thank you, Aaron. So I don't think I give any presentation in this exactly the same way. So I have given this presentation before, but it has now some new exciting material, so which hopefully just actually goes well with the title, The Continued Story. But a couple of days ago, I went on a training course, which is all about adult learning and also helping with this virtual environment. And one of the key things I learned from adult learning is that we need to be told what's in it for us. So I'm going to just quickly tell you what's in it for you. So here you will hear a story, and hopefully that story will kind of tell you how it is working for us, and how at the end of the day, how you maybe can build your own story. Because there are many stories there, and we all have our own stories, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but hopefully it can get you some inspirations on how to kick off your own story or how to continue your story. There'll be some tips in there, there'll be some hyperlinks in there where you can then find more material. I'm sure that you can follow up with the organizers and Aaron saying, hey, how can we get those tips? What are the hyperlinks where we can find more information? So you will definitely have that information as well. So you will get a story, you will get information, and you will get some great new interesting stuff, hopefully. So there you are. That's kind of 3 things. I'm sure there's more, but hey, let's figure some out as we go along. Right, this is me. I am the chair of our Disability Employee Resource Group at Microsoft UK. I also focus on making sure that our products and services are delivered in the most inclusive way. because you might know our vision statement, which is to empower every person, and the key word for me is there, every. So that means like really every, that's 100% of people in the world. That's not 50, that's not 80, that's everybody. At the bottom right, there are a couple of logos there. And, this is not to say we're doing great, but logos kind of set the example for ourselves, because with gaining awards, we're gaining a kind of position in the marketplace, we kind of start benchmarking ourselves. And I think that is kind of key as well, because how do you know that you're making progress in this? And how do you know that you build on the progress that you're doing? So on that sense, we're very proud to have some of those logos. Some are Disability Smart Awards from the Business Disability Forum, and the other one is, if you don't know yet, do check it out. It's from the government, the UK government, the Disability Confidence Scheme, which is a wonderful scheme in helping employ and retain disabled talent. Right, so in another era, it feels like an era, right? Another era. This is how I would have gone to the dyslexia show a couple of months back, and this is where I also went to NIDEX, which is a conference around disability, and this was in this. I don't think I've even forgotten where it is. Is it Manchester? Don't answer that question. But this presentation is, and this is how our attitude should be. It's about removing barriers and being inclusive right from the start. And this picture, to me, kind of showed it in a sense, like here we're seeing a ramp to go up to a place. At the middle, we're seeing an elevator, and on the right-hand side, we're seeing staircase with actually also those dinghies to hold your hand on, just in case you want it. And ultimately, being inclusive is about providing choice, because at any given point, you know what, my weight's going a bit up thanks to COVID. I might want to take the staircase, but if I'm having my luggage with me, I might want the elevator, or maybe not, because that's a close area. Just give me some space, and take a ramp. So it's giving me choice on how to want to do this, and that actually is very inclusive for everybody. I love this picture. Now you could still say, yeah, okay, Michael, we're so happy that you're happy. Well, but why does it actually all matter? And here is then a couple of this definitions just to set the level set here. Now, I love to start with the Equality Act of 2010, and it's kind of cool that this act, but it's also kind of remarkable that we had to wait until the 21st century to get this kind of enabling act. And basically, the definition of disability here is when it doesn't go into describing conditions or what have you. It's going on, is it having an impact on your day-to-day activities? And this can be very key, because basically what it means is, let's say you have a kidney problem where regularly you need to go 100 miles out to a specialist hospital to get some treatment done, and you need to have that done every week, and you need to go there, wait a bit in the queue, and then get the treatment. It's NHS fantastic stuff. They're doing it in half an hour, and then you can go back home again, and another hour to go home. But ultimately, what this means is that on a weekly basis, this will impact you, whether you're working, there will impact you on a social life as well. And if that's over a certain period of time, that can be considered as a disability. And that is just lovely, because it just makes it like, yeah, there's some stuff that we need to sort out for you, especially as an employer, because this has an impact on you. This has an impact on your social life, on your work life, all of the kinds of things. We definitely like, as Microsoft, also the right-hand side, the definition here from the World Health Organization, which also in Britain is seen as the social model of disability. We no longer focus with this definition on the condition. What we basically define is that disability is a mismatch. It's a mismatch that you're facing barriers around you. And those barriers are not just physical. It's not staircase, for example. It's not just that. It's physical, it's social, it's cultural. And the great thing by looking at this from that perspective is that all those barriers are typically human-made. And you could now feel a little bit sad, hopefully, not too much. I know I said hopefully, digging it in here, but the great thing about barriers is that they can be broken down and they're built up by us. So therefore we can break them down. So you are empowered to remove the barriers for people with disabilities and everybody really. And that's the great thing about looking at that kind of definition. How can we make everybody thrive? How can we really be inclusive? Now you could still say, okay, we get it. We got a couple of definitions, but why should be? Why is this really a problem? Well, there's 1 billion people out there with disabilities. That's a lot of talent. That's a lot of market share. Just in case, however you're thinking, why would you say no to that talent? Why would you say no to that market share? And you could say, well, okay, but that's not here, right? That's not us. But only 17% of people are born with a disability. Everybody else, unless you get hit in full health by that bus, unlikely with COVID-19 because we're all asked to be sitting inside. But one day it will be over and you get outside, you won't even pay attention to those buses because you haven't encountered them for quite a while and you will get hit, boom. No, sorry, I didn't mean it like that, but you get the picture here. 83% of us are likely to gain a disability during our working age. You might still say, well, there's nobody here. It's not really us, is that? 70%, think again, 70% of disabilities are invisible. 13 million people in the UK. That's a sizable number. That's a sizable amount of talent. That's a sizable amount of market share. Why would you say no to that? This figure is now higher, but luckily I put a little plus there. Every year, I think this goes up with about 14%. This is the amount of money that people with disabilities and their households have to spend. So that's a lot of money. Would it not be great if we could actually get that money on a yearly basis flow back into the UK economy? I mean, we've been doing stuff now, right? With COVID-19, we can use any penny that we can get. Would it not be great to be inclusive in such a way that that money can actually flow into the economy? Now you could say, well, why wouldn't they in the first place? Let's just give a couple of examples. The stats are only 10% of websites are accessible, for example. Now, to be honest, regularly I go do some checking. It's actually much lower, but hey, I guess must be some countries out there worldwide which are better. I don't know, but regularly I go check some banks, I go check some retailers, and it's not impressive. So and that's just the website front end, right? Other experiences are still not accessible. And we're sitting a lot in front of TV, for example, now as well. Only 10% of media out there is accessible as well. So the list just goes on. And that's genuinely barriers that are human-made and once a way would actually allow that better engagement. Right, now it's all about us. That's not true, but it is about us, and hopefully get you to bit that story. I could start from so many points, but I mean, often what is asked, can you tell us a bit more about our autism hiring program? But there are so many points where I could start from, but let's just start from there. In 2015, we launched this program, and we launched specifically an autism hiring program because as you may know, the disability employment gap is like people with disabilities with the same skills have 50% are 50% less likely of being hired. So same skills, 50% less chance of being hired. Now this is even worse for people with autism. So we felt that we needed definitely do something around that. And in 2015, we made this announcement that we were going to do that. In that first week, we got about 700 CVs in, and typically those CVs weren't pretty. There were CVs that, you know, traditionally and still today, many organizations would just bin. They wouldn't be structured in a way you would expect. There would be gaps in there and things like that. And that in itself already showed us that we needed to rethink on how we were going to do inclusive hiring. And that started with obviously the way we were going to do the hiring, but then also how we were going to support people and really being their best selves. So that's a little bit about that. I'm not the slides are there to give an impression. I think there's more importance there with the story, but we are now in this program around more than 100 full-time employees. These are genuine jobs. And that's not to say that we didn't employ people with autism before that, and that's not to say that we're employing people outside of the program. So we had people with autism before that program. We also had people with also hiring people outside of that program, but that's just to give you an example that we had a specific program there just to focus on that. Now, I already told you that with doing this is that we had to rethink on how we hire, and out of that there's a link there. It's aka.ms/inclusive hiring. There's a lot of information there, and you can hear a much better story here. I'm just giving you a bit of an impression, really. But basically what it showed us is that we had to rethink on how we were going to do things. So we had to do events just to encourage people. Out of that, we built a toolkit. We assigned brokers to help once the disabled talent got in, and to make sure that they got connected with hiring managers, so they could get to make it easier for them to navigate around the organization. And basically what that then started shaping was this kind of program. What we needed to do is we needed to make new employee orientation also more inclusive, more accessible. We definitely saw that we needed to assign mentors and buddies buddies to just do the daily stuff, which might be evident if you're within the organization, but not so evident when you're new, and that goes for anybody really, right? And people might be reticent to asking their manager those kind of things, so just assign a buddy, and then also mentors to make sure that people would grow in the organization. A specific focus on how you're going to work. Let's make sure you got everything sorted out for your office setup, the technology, obviously a focus on reasonable adjustments as well. We do recommend having centralized funding for that. And here's a couple of other things, like we train the team. We don't train the individual, we train the team. We during the process, we get to understand and learn about the individual and how the individual would like to work, and then we train the team around the individual, and this is how the person would like to work, and this is how you get the best out of the person. So it's again about removing the barriers. Obviously, based on that, we also give generic training to the whole company, and again, we started, we broadened that out, of course, to other disabilities and things like that. We have employee resource groups to support this. We also have a disability answer desk, more about that later. And that kind of started changing that culture, and more about that as well, our culture. That definitely got inspired by Satya Nadella, who's our CEO, as you may know. who has experience on disability and as himself a child with disability, and because of that, definitely brought empathy throughout the organization, but also that strong belief also that technology can remove barriers. So I talked a little bit about, you might have seen that I talked about this playbook, but this is about collaborating with other organizations. And again, it's about learning and then sharing that learning. And there's a reason and a benefit to sharing your learning as well, because at the same time, it then gives you input from other organizations so you can learn even more. Because if you don't necessarily share that learning, then how do you know you're doing it right? You think you got it right, and that's your learning. But if you don't share it, then you don't get that extra input, those extra viewpoints, and what's the point of just making progress on your own, right? This is a great thing. You want the whole world to progress. So this link, aka.ms/autism employer work playbook. I'll read it again. I'm sorry. aka.ms/autism employer playbook is a link where you can see where our learning gets shared together with some other great organizations. Here's some more links. So each time aka.ms, but here are some keywords: inclusive hiring, already mentioned that. Supported employment, this is how we create an environment around supported employment. Autism employer roundtable, aka.ms autism employer roundtable. This is where how we are working together with other organizations, and you could join yourself on how to do that. And again, you say, well, this is about autism. Well, actually, no, because the mere fact that you focus on that, you will learn things on how to be inclusive for other people as well. Already mentioned this one, autism employer playbook, and the way we set up virtual careers, because this is really pertinent now, but you want to make sure that people can access you, and that's not just via CVs. You want to give other opportunities. Disability, remember that very first slide I sent you, it's about choice. Inclusivity is about choice. So here's our guidance on how we do virtual career fair, how we do virtual careers fairs. And ultimately, what all of this is kind of driving. Remember, I said I'm going to start with a story and start from a point in the story because of multiple entry points. We're a large organization. I just started from one particular point, but I think it's kind of a mesh, really. But out of that, ultimately, is we learn and we make progress. And these are some. I'm now showing a couple of examples again where we've created great content and we're sharing for free with you. And all of this ultimately is about making accessibility mainstream and making inclusion mainstream. I already mentioned the link on inclusive hiring, and this is where you get all our tips on how we do inclusive hiring, aka.ms/inclusive hiring. There's a site also on how we do disability inclusion, aka.ms/disability inclusion. There's then all our products on aka.ms/accessibility features, and then just in general side where we have more guides on aka.ms/Microsoft accessibility. And what I'm trying to weave here, while I'm giving you a lot of links here, is basically by just starting, and this is one tip here, by just starting by hiring with people with disabilities, you will see that this will drive change within your organization. Capture those learnings and see how you move on from there. Share that with other people and learn from that and move forward. And this is what we're doing here. And at the same time, and I will get back to this, is that you get conversations where you then learn again and move forward in your processes, but also in your products. And I'll get back to that. Another example. Maybe I need to stop with links here, but people do ask these things. Where do we find this? Out of that, the same thing is that we also needed to make our workplace inclusive, and out of that, we created again material, and that's called Inclusive Workplace Handbook. A link here aka.ms/inclusive workplace handbook. Sorry, I just had a visitor. Anyway, but just to give you an impression on how this then works is that we've learned, well, if you really want to do this, we need to do this for everybody, right? And out of that, by hiring people with disabilities, we then also saw that, okay, how can we make sure that we create the environment that they thrive? And then again, we wanted to make sure that we got, you know, our ideas right, the benchmark right, and evolve from that. And again, that would not be possible if we would not document this and share this, so people can actually comment on it and say, okay, this is great, or okay, you're missing something out here. And here's just some samples of that material that we're sharing here on how we see ramps need to be. And you might say, well, we got this in Britain. Well, you know what, worldwide, those things are not necessarily fully documented everywhere, and there will be different standards. So we're trying to get each time what is the best standards and adapt to that. Same thing about, so we saw something about ramps here, same thing about sound, which you might not think about. How can we create the environment so sound is used to the best of abilities? And you say, okay, sound, but here is also important that says, if you think about sound, then you also need to think about light, because there's a lot of people here out there with hearing loss, which actually do with lip reading. So you then also need to make sure that there's enough light to engage. And then, you know, what about technology? Because there are technologies out there that you know, interfere with Bluetooth hearing aids. And at the same time, if we're in a busy restaurant, things like that, where there's loads of other noise, how can we make sure that messages are still conveyed via TV screens, for example? Well, let's make sure that captioning is on. And as you see now, just by following that thread of that story, we think it shows us that we need to think about a number of things here. But ultimately, by thinking about these number of things, sound, light, technology, how it could interfere or not interfere, captioning, you weave a story of inclusion on what you need to do to have a really inclusive workplace. Same thing here is then, this is a great one for that we've seen for with COVID-19. We've been asked to queue, right? How do you know if you have a vision loss, whether you are queuing 2 meters apart? You know, you see those stickers on the floor, but they might not help at all. So why are those stickers not tactile, for example? And, you know, believe me, if you have vision loss, you know, you want to respect that 2 meter distance, but then there's everybody else just weaving around in the store because, oh, I want to have that gadget, and they go straight through the queue, and you still don't know, you don't even know what your exact positioning should be. So if you have some tactile stuff out there, tactile positioning on the floor, then you generally know where what 2 meter distance is, for example. Now, if you get to it in that kind of mindset and all that kind of potentially change, what are you actually doing? You are starting to change a culture. When you start changing that culture, you get to people saying, oh, so we actually really care about this. So that means I can talk about this, which then means that people will start feeling that they are allowed to have a voice, and they are allowed to start saying, speaking up and calling in, saying, you know what, these services, these products are not really inclusive that we do. And that will give you that input to create better products and services. When you create better products and services, that ultimately creates for you a better organization, a better employer, but also a better organization, because your products will be better because they will have input of that billion people out there, for example. Obviously, you're not employing a billion people, but you will have input from that representation. That itself becomes kind of a circle, because the mere fact that you start changing these things, people start saying like, "Ooh, I like this employer. I want to go to this employer," or I like this service provider. I'll go back to this service provider. And ultimately, that becomes a cycle which just reinforces itself. And that's how you can do this yourself. This doesn't have to be our story. This can be your story as well, because there's nothing here that stops you. Because this is just culture drives product innovation, drives your future, your positive, growing, embracive, inclusive culture, which future, which then accelerates your culture. What we've seen is we get to more customers because of this. Obviously, there is that compliance bar that we need to achieve, or that performance that we need to achieve. There's legislation out there as well, but we also get more skills in. We get innovation scenarios. For example, this slide here, right? This slide, when it got created, was just a white slide with some bullet points, and PowerPoint Designer just makes this look like this. And PowerPoint Designer came to be because people who had lots of vision said, hey, we want to make pretty slides as well. Thank you very much. This is artificial intelligence helping create this slide with just a single click. Just looking at the bullet points I made on a white slide and saying, like, let's make this pretty for you. And I say, thank you very much. Which helps in so many ways. Good mobility as well, for example, removes anxiety as well, because you're like, yeah, this looks good. I don't have to worry about it. This is then also a productivity feature, and that's why we also get sought out. So what? Just in case you're still not convinced, here's some research. We've seen that when you start more embracing this will empower you. You will have productivity gains, not just with your disabled talent, but everybody. You will get more talent retention. As I said, we get older, we gain disabilities. You will join that club. You don't want to lose that experience, right? Obviously, you will attract disabled talent. You will attract that mindset, because people with disabilities often are innovators in themselves, because they have to, because they face all these barriers. So you will get those different perspectives. And if all of this doesn't excite you, there is still, the compliance bar that you might have to meet. There's some other research as well here from Accenture. We see that organizations which embrace this kind of mindset have more revenue, more income, perform better. And guess what? Millennials, this is one of the things they're seeking with an employer. So why would you want to deprive yourself of that workforce? Because to them, diversity and inclusion, the great topics of the world, sustainability, all of that kind of stuff, that matters to them, and they will pick employers who really embrace this. Now, just the real reason to change on this. So don't take out of this, oh, so you just do a program and we're good. No. And I hope this message is saying, yeah, by all means, start with a program, but this is about you changing the culture and embracing what that culture will mean to you, which ultimately is making a better company, and a better company, not just for yourself, but also for your employees, your most valued treasure, and your customers. So ultimately, that should be the real reason why you want to change. And this is where by going on a journey of disability inclusion will get you there. Now, just a little bit about this. If you're just saying, okay, that's great, we've got all this material and things like that, we've noticed ourselves that, we're still on a journey, and we're still on continuously seeing where we are and how best we can benchmark ourselves. And out of that, we kind of said, like, there's a maturity diagram here, and there's a number of elements where we still need to grow, and there's still progress to be made. So we did kind of look at what have we done over the past 5 years, and how does this look like? And there are a number of maturity models out there at the market, but they're pretty much the same. And we're more than happy to share and work with you also on that maturity model. And it's kind of grouped here. You see here 8 pillars. There's some organization with 10 pillars, which is fine. But I'm not going to go into detail here. It's just to help you. Basically, it's about getting started. Let's just focus on about getting started. And what I said there, I hope you remember, is about people and culture. That's where you start with. And we've turned this around and saying disability is a strength. And by just increasing the representation, by starting, you will start to harness that strength, and you start harnessing those interesting points that you are actually possibly not inclusive and how you could be more inclusive. Here's a sample of that diagram and where it starts, for example, on culture. Do you have an employee resource group? Do you have that representation? Do you have that voice? That would be level 1. Does that group, does that community, is that empowered with an executive sponsor, for example? That would be a level 2 element. So this is how you either can adopt a maturity model from somewhere else, ours, or create your own. And this is how you can measure how year on year you're making progress. Ultimately, I talked a bit about this already. This is how we then fuel our inclusive hiring, making sure that our training continuously corresponds to that, our employee resource groups are empowered, and there is a reasonable adjustment budget to make sure that these initiatives thrive. Another one quickly on this is, and I repeated this slide now, I'm just going to quickly on training and support and tools, because you know, you want to make sure that that infrastructure is there. So making sure that people, you will have new employees coming in, so making sure that they understand about your culture, making sure that people who are already in your organization, you know, get to that next level. Also, you know, we're not all experts. Give them the tools. So that's that particular maturity element there. And again, we recognize there's levels in there, level 1, level 2, level 3, and where we kind of want to make sure that we ourselves are providing the proper tools and things like that, and really key for us. And a little bit about those tools here, and not just the tools. We also have, for example, an enterprise disability answer desk, and I'm a couple of links here again. If we're having people here from a company, this support also goes to you. If you have a person with a disability in your organization, they can get free support by that same mechanism on our platform or third-party assistive technology using that platform. That would be aka.ms/edat. For consumers, aka.ms/disability answer desk. And how to build up within your organization. Again, we've created that mind share, and we're sharing that as well. But this is then how we set the bar, and that whole learning, those training modules, we are now making available to the wide world as well. The link is here. I'm sure Aaron will find a way to get this to you, but this is how you can then start using that material yourself to help teach your own the people in your organization and get a badge. This is about how a tool that we created to help people check websites, and again, you know, we recognize that everybody's an expert here, but how can we then empower people, be allies in this? And this is just a great example on how we building our tools in as well. So you don't have to be an expert, but at least you can be inclusive. So there you are. Become an innovator in accessibility. Start your journey here. And that's me. Done.
Thank you very much, Michael. Do you want to go back a slide for me so they can at least see that? That's an amazing talk. There's Michael there in the middle, doing his. You're doing your bit there at number 10, spreading more awareness. Were you telling the camera to the person to take the picture in that picture?
Well, actually, so you see my finger pointing forward, which could be a reference to the budget and having that red thingy. That was not. It was to have the dog look towards the camera, because basically what he was doing was kind of looking to me, and I'm like, no, look forward. And by just making a movement, he moved his head forward.
Oh, that's brilliant, Michael. It is. No, I love listening to you, Michael. I love listening to the story of Microsoft. It's an amazing journey you've come on. I think there's so many resources there. What will happen is you will get the copy of this recording, and you will get we will get Dyslexia Box to send out some more resources as well. So I'm gonna we've got about 5 minutes before we finish. So if there is a question for Michael, put it in that question box. I'm happy to take a few questions. Um, so I've answered both the questions about there. So will we have access to the presentation? We're going to send out the recording, and I will send out the links. What we'll do is I will uh, I'll talk to Michael offline about how to get a copy of all the links, then we can send them out to you. So we can definitely do that. It's not an issue at all. We'll always work through it. Someone just said amazing, thank you so much. So I think that's a very positive comment there, and I do think it is. I think for me as a dyslexic person that has watched Microsoft, and yes, for those that know, I am a vendor for Microsoft as well in another job that I do, not when I'm working for Dyslexia Box. I have seen this grow, and yeah, closed captions built into PowerPoint. If you haven't seen them, yes, they're not. You always get some oddities, like it's saying $20 there, but it does work. It does.
But yeah, so this one is supposed to work for me, right?
Yeah.
As you can see now, it's not necessarily supposed to work for you.
No,
If
it's
you
not. No, it's fine.
something.
So in the screening process for employees, I fear that disability will automatically screen out someone with for example, dyslexia. How do you see this sorting a mindset alliance? Align. That's my dyslexia. I am going to listen to that again. Um, basically, so I'm going to try that again. In the screening process of employees, I feel that disabilities will automatically screen out someone with dyslexia. How do you feel this sort of mindset is set? Um,
Yeah,
Go
yeah, you're absolutely right. In the traditional means of hiring, there will be barriers, and there's a number of ways that you need to address that, and this is where you need to have a number of things which I talked about, but where you have your screening people have that appreciation that they might want to do things in a different way. And good practice is actually to proactively ask, how can we, hey, we're looking for some talent here. How can we attract you? How would you like this experience to be? Here's I mean, I'm going to give you an ultimate example here. I mean, people go with screening, they go like, oh, yeah, surely we don't want to say the questions that we're going to ask beforehand, right? That would be kind of cheating, because then candidates could give the best possible answer. I'm like, okay, what do you want to test the candidates? Do you want to test them on how well they handle surprises, or on how well they understand the material you're going to check them for? Now, I know what I want. I want somebody who knows the material that we want to hire them for, or have the capability to handle the material rather than handle surprises. I mean, at any given point, getting a surprise can be yay, or okay, what did you just do to me? So same thing. And again, would you like somebody who writes very neatly CVs, or would you like somebody who can do the job? And that's that mindset you need to change with your hiring branch people, facade, that kind of stuff.
No, that's amazing, Michael. There. So, are you still there, Michael?
Yes.
That's fine. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Sorry, I was doing three things at once. Of course, not good.
That's you.
What I'm gonna do is there is a few questions in there, and And basically, we are coming to the end. I'm going to read this one question out, and I think that me and Michael may be able to answer this. So, this person says, "I'm encouraged to see what Microsoft is doing in empowering people and students. I feel that some things could still be improved in
Mhm.
changing backgrounds, fonts, etc. Some kind of panel could be built in. And this is I mean, in Microsoft Teams in particular."
Yeah.
So that's interesting feedback there is. Do you want to just mention, Michael, about some of the current like themes in Teams that you can do already?
So Teams is continuously evolving, and it's actually the evolution is accelerated by the pandemic, that more and more people are using this, right? We had
Hmm.
I don't know, it was a 200% growth, people using Teams. So that's definitely accelerating. Things you
100,
that you might, yeah, go on.
141, I think, no, 114 million active daily users was tweeted by a CVP last
They
month.
are. So
114 million active users per day, that is.
so one of the things that we got now, so what I saw during the pandemic that stood out for me is that hand raising, which is kind of key for also for introverts who want to kind of get something in, but also that we recently seen is speaker attribution to
Mm,
which then, if you record it, you will get a transcript with speaker attribution. So you will then have a nice transcript of who said what. So you could actually start going through the transcript and see what actions have been given to whom and who said that they're going to take actions, etc. So those are some of the evolutions.
yeah.
I think with Teams, as it is continuously evolving, what I do suggest is here is again a link, aka.ms/user voice,
Mm,
uh, and put your suggestions in there. That does get read, that does get
yeah.
actioned, and that's what drives the evolution of our product.
Yeah, I know I was going to say the same thing. User voice is the best thing to get it, and I can give you a very interesting concept. They promote. There was a user voice put out there for PowerPoint, having immersive reader in
Mm.
PowerPoint. We had over 290 people uh, vote for it, and then the PowerPoint team agreed to do it. So it is very beneficial. Going back specifically to that last question, I know there's a few more questions, but I'm going to end this after this. Is just to say that if you go into the settings icon, there is 4 different colored backgrounds you can use, from standard mode, dark mode, um, in the introvert mode, which is basically changes the colors to more yellow and black, and then it swaps it around. It does. So there's 4 of them in there already, but I would say for other things, put them into user voice, and that means that
Mm.
then more things can be added. I'm going to say a big thank you, Michael. An amazing opening to our day. We've got 5 other sessions. Looking forward to any of you that are coming back at 11 o'clock in 10 minutes time. I'll be waiting for you. I'm going to end this session. Click on the link to the next session if you're coming to it. Thank you, Michael, for an amazing session. I'm going to end today. And hope to see you all soon. If you have asked a question, if you want to email hello@dyslexiabox.co.uk with your question, I can then get them over to Michael, or just if you respond back to them to the webinar email, that's what I was trying to say, I can then do it. So I can then also speak to Michael or help you answer the question. So I'm going to end the webinar now for everyone. Thank you, Michael. Take care. Most
Fabulous.
appreciated.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Bye bye.